Do you guys smell that? It's the smell of a brand new season in Valorant. If last season went wrong, this is the perfect time to make it right. I mean, with how well Valorant resets everyone's ranks, what could go wrong? Now, if we really want to climb up this time around, it's important that we're always working towards improving different aspects of our game. This includes things like our aim, game sense, agent pool, as well as decision making. These are essentials and basics that you need to do well in Valorant, but you can take things a lot further by utilizing more niche techniques that most of the player base doesn't know about. Here are 3 tricks that you can take advantage of to get you that extra few steps above the rest of the pack. With these, you'll be well on your way to getting that rank you've always wanted. First up, one of the best tricks you can learn in Valorant is lineups. For abilities that do damage such as Sova's Shock Dart and Molotovs from Brimstone, Killjoy, and Viper, there are lineups that you can do to safely and consistently land in the same place. This is particularly useful in common areas of the map that you think players will be during a specific situation. Most notably, they're incredibly useful for 2 particular events. One is when the enemy is trying to plant the spike, and 2 is when trying to defend the spike after it's been planted. After playing a couple of Valorant games, you might have noticed that there are some pretty common positions where someone will plant the spike. By knowing these positions, there are lineups that you can do to delay the spike from being planted. For example, on the C side of Haven, most players will plant the spike around this position. To hit this spot with Sova's Shock Dart, you want to run into the corner outside B's sight. From there, you're going to want to use the icons on top of Sova's Shock Dart ability on the screen. Line it up with the middle of the 3 sticks that are on top of this roof. Fire the Shock Dart without any charges and you'll hit it right where we talked about. I tested this in game and executed it perfectly, but I may have landed it on the wrong person. With these lineups, you're actually doing 2 things. You're delaying the spike plant, which gives more time for your team to rotate to eventually play retake. You're also forcing the enemy team to have to plant the spike in a different position for fear of getting hit again by another lineup. This could put them in a more vulnerable position where they're exposed from multiple angles, leading into an easier pick for you or your teammate. By just doing this, you're putting the enemy in a significantly more uncomfortable position. I don't know about you, but I get pretty nervous when I'm not able to plant the spike right away. Now that was a more defense-oriented lineup. Let's move on to post-plant lineups. Sova's Shock Darts can be used for the same purpose, but you'll see more use out of Brimstone and Viper's Mollies. The purpose of these lineups is to delay the defenders from defusing the spike. The Molotovs do enough damage that enemies won't be able to fully defuse it without dying. For Viper's Mollies in particular, when paired with her Poison Cloud, you'll be doing a ton of damage on anyone who dares to defuse the spike. To give an example with Brimstone's Molotov on Icebox, you can get the default plant position on A by backing up into the wall at Belt. Line yourself in front of this vertical line. From there, turn around and you want to use the curved arrow on top of the Molotov ability icon. Line up the left side of this arrow with this corner on pipes, and once you have that all together, fire your Molotov and it'll land perfectly on the default plant position. Brimstone's Molotov particularly lasts 7 seconds, which is how long it takes to get a full defuse off. Viper has 2 Molotovs and each of them lasts 6.5 seconds, that's 13 seconds of stalling power. In real life that time is short, but in Valorant it's significant and can make the difference between whether the diffuser has enough time to win the round or not. There are also lineups that are available for other Molotovs such as KO and Phoenix. These Molotovs don't last nearly as long though, but they're still worth learning for when you're in a tight pinch. Again, every second of delay is important in a post-plant situation. Even if these agents aren't your mains and you're not comfortable playing them, learning 1 or 2 lineups can make a big impact on the outcome of a match. If you want to learn more lineups for a specific agent, check out our other videos where we break it down further. We have lineups for every agent. Get those lineups in your toolbox and you'll be well on your way to tilting your enemies. We're going to get into our next trick in just a second, but if you really want to take things to the next level and climb up to Radiant, then you want to check out our website at SkillCapped.com. On our website, we have multiple comprehensive courses and guides on various aspects of the game. I personally was struggling with better ways to play at the attacker side, and SkillCapped had me covered with the exact course I needed to improve. This is just a taste of what SkillCapped has to help you improve in Valorant. We guarantee you'll see significant improvements quickly, so if you're interested in taking your game to the next level, the link will be provided in the description below. Moving on, another trick that will greatly help you out in games is one-way smokes. Every controller in Valorant has some sort of method to perform one-way smokes in their arsenal. With one-way smokes, you can see the enemy while the enemy cannot see you. That's pretty OP. Let's take a common one-way that was done on A short on Bind. Unfortunately, with the box change, you can't get a one-way smoke with Brimstone and Astra here. However, you can still make a one-way smoke with Viper. To do this, you want to line yourself in the middle of the new boxes, right in line with the edge of the half box. From there, you want to look to the left for a pole full of rings. There is a set of 3 rings that are quite close to each other. Line up your crosshair with the right edge of the highest of those 3 rings. Right click and bang, you got the Viper one-way smoke for A short on Bind. Now you can stop enemies in their tracks for multiple seconds if they try to go through this choke point. Now for Brimstone, there are certain elevated objects that make for a perfect one-way smoke. On Split, there is a box right inside Ramen that you can pop a smoke onto. This gives you a one-way smoke against anyone that tries to push out from this choke point towards middle. They won't be able to peek vents and are an easy peasy kill. You can do the same one-way smoke with Astra as well. The visibility is a bit trickier with her smokes depending on the location, but there are still viable options to obscure vision and make enemies hesitate with their push. Lastly, we got Omen, who can make a one-way smoke practically anywhere on the map. However, his smokes are arguably the hardest to execute properly. To perform a one-way smoke with Omen, you want to actually throw the smoke slightly inside walls. This will cause you to get a red arrow indicating that it's an improper smoke, but if you keep your crosshair close to the edge, you will still get the smoke to bloom. Once you're on the edge of the wall, you want to lift the smoke up until you can no longer see the outline of the smoke on the ground. Raise the smoke up just a tad more and let it rip. Now you have a one-way that you can use practically anywhere on the map. The tough part is getting the smoke with just enough height that it blocks out the vision of the enemies. Set it too low and it'll be a normal smoke, and if you set it too high, then the enemy will still be able to see you. If you use the smoke's outline on the floor as a reference and go just a touch higher when you lose it, you should be good to go in most cases. One-way smokes will make enemies second guess their push. It's very disadvantageous to peek a one-way smoke or push through it. This gives you a ton of stalling power with how many smokes controllers have and how long each of those smokes last. You can essentially have a choke point on lockdown for an entire round with these one-way smokes. This is now forcing enemies to have to look elsewhere for a place to push. Regardless of what controller you're playing, you should definitely learn how to make these one-way smokes on them. Last but not least, one trick you absolutely cannot ignore and should definitely use is off angles. And off angles when you're playing a position that players don't usually expect you to be in. This throws off their crosshair placement and allows you to gain the upper hand in an engagement. In every map, there are common angles and positions that players will be in. For example, if we run through the B site on Bind, there are quite a few spots that people tend to play, and as a result, they are predictable areas to pre-fire for and peek. To make it harder for the enemy to pre-aim your position, you want to play something more unexpected, hence the term off angle. You can do this by first taking a commonly held angle and then moving slightly to the side. In this clip, we're moving just slightly off to the side from the more typical positions at spawn, cubby, and elbow. Players that try to pre-aim onto these very specific points will be thrown off by this. While their aim will still be in the general vicinity, they'll have to flick their crosshair to adjust to your off angle. This gives you a few extra milliseconds to shoot them first, while also making it harder for them to land the shot. They can end up under flicking their aim or over flicking while you have your crosshair right where you want it. Another form of off angles is playing positions that are less common per se. Think of positions that you don't typically check when you're going into a site. For example, most players don't pre-aim onto the top of containers on B site, and thus is a perfect position to be in to catch an enemy off guard. Likewise, under hookah is also a position that players sometimes will check, but usually they're more focused on what's ahead on the back of site, and hence is another position that can catch players off. Lastly, with the right agent and map, you can create off angles by playing the high ground. Agents like Jet, Raze, and Omen have abilities that can boost them up onto elevated platforms. By being on the high ground, you're 1, in a position that enemies typically won't check off the bat, and 2, you're in a position where you're making it harder for enemies to kill off your other teammates if they focus on you. If you're on the high ground, enemies are forced to put their aim up high. This makes it harder to adjust their aim afterwards to level ground where your teammates are going to be. As a result, if your teammate times their peaks properly, they'll likely be able to safely assist you or at the very least get a trade frag. With each of these off angles, you're throwing the enemy into an unfavorable scenario. The best thing about off angles is you can apply them to any map. Think of common positions that you find players in. Now play an angle that's just slightly off of that position or that's completely unexpected. If you want to climb the ranks in Valorant, you want to take any advantage you can to get the dub. Give off angles a try in your games and we're confident you'll be able to win more aim duels and get more frags as a result. That's all we have for today's video. Try these tricks out in your next ranked games and go get that rank that you've always dreamed of this season. Don't wait till the next act, the time is now. As always, if you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel down below to help support us. I'm Dr. Zora, we here at SkillCapped want to thank you all for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.